Hi all, thanks for tuning in to Behind the Logo, our new web series designed to give you a sneak peek behind the strategies and best practices of our partners. Today I'm excited to be joined by Clay Bollinger of Tennessee Football. And Clay, welcome.
Thanks, man. Good to be here, Jeff.
Awesome. Today I definitely want to talk about more of the content side, specifically the campaign you ran last year with your early enrollees coming onto campus, and you called it your Meet the Freshmen campaign. Can you kind of touch on, before I show some examples, touch on your thought process behind that campaign and why you wanted to execute it?
Yeah, so we wish that we could have gotten to run it back this year during spring ball, but we only were 2 practices in before it all got cut off. But going back to last year, it was really a big opportunity for us because that was really our first class that Coach Pruitt signed that was like our guys. And so we really wanted to showcase them individually. And the whole motif of them taking off their helmet, as you'll see in the example, is really something that you just personify of getting to know a player, right? You're taking that helmet off, getting to know them behind the helmet there. And so we were really close with those guys through the recruiting process and then getting to showcase them once they got here and we're in the middle of their first spring practices. It was really cool to kind of connect them with the fans, but then also share it via their accounts and not from the football account, right? So my plan and strategy with that was that, hey, why not take it straight to them? We're going to retweet it from the team account, but it was a good opportunity for them to have a cool piece of content really in that first couple of months that they were here.
Yeah, for sure. I absolutely loved, and I'll bring up the examples here. Like you mentioned, the taking off the helmet part. Let's see, which screen do you see right now? Do you just see the examples?
Yeah, I see yours, yeah, with the tweets up, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so like So yeah, that's what's cool about like the taking off the helmet is, the athlete with their helmet on is what the fans are used to seeing. But by taking off the helmet, it really helps introduce the player to the fans. And what I love about what you did is you did it as early as you possibly could. Like this was their first practice on campus as freshmen, and you really, again, helped to get their face out there to match their name. Because during the recruiting process, people know the name, they know the stars associated with the name. Other than that, they don't really know who that person is. So it was really cool to be able to see you again bridge that gap very quickly and can start to create that connection between the player and their fans. So with that, I know you focused on the early enrollees. Did you choose to do a video like that for all of the enrollees, or did you kind of select certain ones that you knew would have more success?
No, we did it with all. I think that offseason we had about 8 guys. So within spring practice, you got 15 practices. So this spaces it out pretty well. And all those guys were right there at the beginning. And it was really cool to kind of showcase not only the freshmen that were coming, we had a couple of transfers as well. So you go back, and I don't think that they had content like that, and they've told me at the place they were before. So it was cool to be able to put that in their feed immediately and see the interactions and get them with fall Twitter, blowing them up. And a lot of those guys, the freshmen, were really big gets for us, and it's kind of celebrating that again. But we definitely spaced it out and made sure that everybody got their own fair share at it. It's a little tougher when the other 25 or so show up in June, and but we did like a quick round table, one of those when those guys showed up in the summer. So everybody kind of got their chance, including the walk-ons in the summer as well. So that's a big part. I think that a lot of people forget maybe those guys, and they're kind of lost in the shuffle, but able to give them a chance to be seen and put out there as well.
Yep. And then what was that process like of, reaching out to the athletes, getting them to participate? I mean, you didn't have too much of an ask from them. You obviously filmed the video of them taking their helmet off. The rest was highlight footage from practice, but you did have like voiceovers and stuff like that. What was that sales pitch like to the athletes on getting them interested?
It's getting easier and easier. They want to do content and be a part of it and get on camera as much as possible. And I tell them there's a lot more of you than there are of me. So There's not going to be every single day you're going to get something, but I want to make sure that we work our way all around the team and hit every single person at least at some point in a short amount of time. And between that, like I said, it's a relationship that you kind of build through the recruiting process, and now we're kind of bearing the fruits of that labor of knowing these guys, Wanya and Q you just saw there, that are guys that now I can just text at any point during the day and get them to do whatever. And that's just face recognition. But I'm not always asking them for stuff. I'm hitting them up after they had a good play. Q had a great game in the bowl game, scored a touchdown, and so like those kind of times I make an opportunity to be able to say, hey, congrats, man, happy for you. I'm also hyping them up on the other side, and not always asking them for stuff. So when I do come to ask for them, they're more willing and more acceptable to it. So I'm excited about kind of now we've got almost 3/4 of the team are all Pruitt guys and all guys that I've been here in the last 2 years. So we're going to have more and more of that coming up, which is exciting. And I'm really looking forward to. And so it just makes the ask so easy. And they're usually texting me now saying, hey, when can I get on something? When can I get on something? So that's really how it goes. It's very simple, very informal most of the time. If we need something for a big project that's a little more substance to it, we're going to obviously everything runs through our communications department as well. Bill Martin's our SID now. And so we're keeping them in the loop constantly because really I get a lot from our local media that they're like, oh, we don't get this access. We want to talk to these guys too. I'm like, well, this is the advantage of being on the inside, right? And having those relationships and being a part of the team. And so that's kind of the difference is that we really just are friends with the guys and are able to put them in front of the camera, and they feel really comfortable now with it.
Gotcha. And then, so with this, since they were freshmen at the time, did you use the content as the way to, get them signed up for Opendorse, or were they already signed up at that time?
Those guys actually specifically like One AQ, and then they were signed up before signing day. That was the first December signing day, so it was easy to kind of, again, through the recruiting process, they're here on official visits or just unofficial, that we're getting in there and getting them onboarded prior to, but we can't send them content due to NCAA rules until they sign that letter of intent. But as soon as that happens, we were able to get them rocking and rolling. And so that's that first December, I was walking around with an iPad during official visits and then having guys sign up through that. So that was really easy. Now, once guys sign or guys currently on the team, it's a quick text. Hey, I'm about to send you a link. You're going to get a text from a Nebraska number. What it is, right? So that's kind of how that flows.
Gotcha. And then, so kind of harping back on, and this is more just a question of your thought process and philosophy on, having the athletes share the content rather than the team accounts. Have you noticed, I guess, really just with your strategy on social with the Tennessee football account, has there been an emphasis shift of, not everything needs to go through the football account. You can disperse and have the players share it, and you get, that same impact rather than having it all funnel through one?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to have great numbers thanks to Vol Twitter and Vol Nation that whatever we post. I mean, we can post a blank tweet with one word in it and it's going to blow up. It doesn't matter. So I really don't look into analytics that much here, which is crazy. But obviously we pay attention to what's successful and what's not. And what has been successful is when we do send this content directly to the guys and just retweet it from the team account, they're getting 7-8 times more engagement than we do from if we would have posted it straight from the team account. And that's exciting to then share with the players, and then they feel a need to do it again, right, and want to do it more. So that's kind of part of the strategy. But hat tip to Eric DeSalvo. I love this line that he always uses, that who's the best person to share this content with. And so I've definitely implemented that into our strategy. He's like, hey, does this make sense here or does it make sense there? It's a very common sense approach and question, but it makes a world of difference when you can be like, hey, yeah, maybe it does make sense for JG or QB to tweet this out instead of us.
Yeah, it's been really cool to see you really embrace it. And like you mentioned, the engagement difference of having an athlete share compared to your team is pretty drastic. And it's cool that, you guys can still retweet it which again amplifies that content, still gets content on your feed. And, for any recruit that's coming and looking at, Tennessee football, you scroll through that feed and you guys can see a lot of content that the athletes are posting, which, that athlete would be in that same position when they get on campus. So it's a cool way to show them that when they get there, they'll be having resources behind them to help improve their following and their brand. So also with this, just jumping back into the campaign specifically, or, just any campaign that you run, what's your process on the back end for like tracking this kind of stuff, like progress, or, which athletes are getting the content, or what caption are you going to suggest to them? What does that look like on your end?
Right. So I think with only having a certain amount of early enrollees, so you kind of just basically go in and say, hey, these are the 8 guys. Here's the 8 days that we're going to do this, right? And you kind of give them a heads up. Maybe one day it starts raining, so we can't shoot. Yeah, you're going to be flexible with that stuff, but you just lay it out on the content calendar and space it out. And then once we're going out and shooting, so I shot and edited those deliverables, and so I would just go out, shoot during practice, get what I needed. I'd grab them after practice. That's where the stuff of them talking came from, and just kept them for literally 2.5 minutes maybe, and asked them 3 or 4 questions. Then go in and edit it right after practice. We've also got other shooters and editors working for like the team counts deliverable for the day from practice. So this is definitely just an offshoot campaign. And so go in, edit it, and then get it sent to the guys immediately right after practice as soon as possible. And they usually would have it within an hour or 2 post practice, which was also kind of part of the strategy that it's keeping it relevant and keeping it right in there while people are looking for what's coming after that practice, right? And so then you go in how you track it. I mean, obviously the dashboard that you guys have was huge on that, of being able to kind of see and kind of rank who had the most and whatnot. But that wasn't a big deal. Obviously, some of our big dogs were going to get more numbers than the walk-ons or grad transfers or whatnot. So you don't look too much into that. I think that each one kind of stands on its own, but it is interesting to kind of just watch it and see what happens. But then we would make sure too that we're retweeting them. We're going in on the back end as well.
Yeah, and then you mentioned again the ask that you have from the players. What has like the coaching staff's reaction been to getting that participation from the players? Is like, are you asking them after practice, before practice, or is it something where the coaching staff had to kind of sign off on this because you're potentially taking like minutes away from a film session or something?
Right. And I think that campaign, obviously with the early enrollees, it's a very set group, right? Well, most of the time, whenever else I'm trying to get content from players, I'm in the staff meetings every morning. I'm hearing like who's in the doghouse, who's not. So you kind of understand what players the coaches are in good graces with. So I'm not picking somebody that just got in trouble or skipping class or anything like that. But that's just something you kind of have that trust factor with the staff. They don't really, I don't want to say they don't care, but they're aware that it's happening and they know that it's important. But they're not going to tell me yes or no, I can't use a guy. And that, again, that just goes back to trust and knowing who's the guys that are in good graces there. And so I pick a time, yes, that right after practice, they're going to go in and kind of debrief in the locker room, and there's not any meetings for another 30, 40 minutes. So they've got time, and I'm not going to keep them any longer than they need to be. Really, those conversations are no more than 5 minutes of recording them right there. Or if I grab a guy, I'm going to ask him and say, hey, you got to get to class. Do you got a paperwork on? Do you got to go to the training room? So you just kind of double check and make sure you're not interfering with anything. That's happened before. And I hate it. That's one of the worst things is if you feel like you're holding them up from something. So you try to avoid that at all costs.
Gotcha. Yeah. Thank you for all this insight. This is probably one of my more favorite campaigns that I've, seen come through the platform, just because it is cool. Again, fans know the athlete through following like the recruiting process, but they know their name, they know their position, they know their stars, but they don't know much else. And you being able to introduce the player to the fans as soon as possible to help build that connection was really cool. And then the last question I have here is just, uh, for any new partner that is joining Opendorse, is there any advice that you would give them based on the experience that you've had over the past few years?
Yeah, I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, but building those relationships is so crucial. And it's not just when you need something from them. It's going to be the everyday of making sure that they know that you're there for them. Point them in the right direction. If it's a new guy, of telling them some stuff that's on campus or somewhere to go eat and check out, or, hey, what'd you think of that show that was on last night during the last dance or whatever, something like that. You're just building those relationships and being friends with them because you need them and they need you. So, it's a two-way street, but we want to make sure that we're helping them grow as athletes and as students and as people. So I still take pride in that. Of I'm not just here to get content out of these guys and squeeze them, but I'm here to be there for them, whatever they need to.
Perfect. Yeah. Again, greatly appreciate all this insight. You've been one that is really, taken the reins and run with it. And it's been cool to see the product that you've created over at Tennessee. So thank you for joining me today. Again, really appreciate the input, and hope you have a good off season leading into the season this year.
Appreciate it, Jeff. We still got to get you guys on Rocky Top here soon.
Dude, I'm down. All right. See you, Clay.
Yeah.